So we're ready to get started, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jed Coiteux. Jed is the Vice President of North American Sales at Aderant, and he's going to lead a panel discussion which we're calling The Firm. It is very much a conversation about driving profitability and making wise choices in these law firms. Jed?
Thank you. Everybody. Thanks, everybody. My name is Jed Coiteux. I am the Vice President of Sales at Aderant. And this conversation is really about the new legal world. So if you look at it, we've heard from several panelists before this conversations, corporate counsel is demanding more in law firms. And law firms in turn are changing. On top of that, you have millennials out there. By 2025, millennials will represent 75% of the legal workforce, or the workforce in general in the world. So what does that mean? Millennials embrace technology. Millennials are less loyal. They're shown to leave. They're not shown to have the typical career path of associate to partner to equity partner or shareholder. Millennials also want more of a work-life balance. They don't necessarily want to have those 10, 12 days. So we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be very free-flowing with this esteemed group of panelists. We have corporate counsel, we have big law, we have mid-law, and we have law school here. So I'm going to go. Lucy, I'm going to start with you. Introduce yourself, and just give it a real good perspective to everybody as how you look at the new legal world.
Okay, so I'm Lucy. I'm Assistant General Counsel of Contracting and Legal Operations now in our department. I think that right there tells you a good hint about where law departments are going. We are looking at running departments a bit more like a business. We're looking at all kinds of professionals. We feel like we know how to hire lawyers for the most part, though we are looking for new and different skills to add on top. But we're also looking for all kinds of other professionals in other areas. And I think that's been definitely a change that we've seen. Our entire department looks different than it did even just a couple of years ago.
Thanks. Andrei?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrei Iancu. I'm the managing partner of Irell and Manella. We are an LA-based firm, but we have a national practice. This is our 75th year in Los Angeles, actually. We have about 125 lawyers, all located in Southern California. So what I would say is the market for legal services has indeed changed. From our perspective, we've been more or less the same size, give or take. We've been between 100 and 200 lawyers, up and down in that range for, I would say, the past 25 years, maybe more. While we've watched almost everybody else either disappear or get very big. So traditional LA-based firms like originally Latham, O'Melveny, Gibson, they've all gotten very large. We, though, have stayed the course. And to some extent, we continue to practice in the traditional way. Brad from O'Melveny mentioned it. We do focus on certain practice areas. We want to be at the top of each one of those practice areas. We want to be the go-to firm for clients when they have the most important matters in our key practice areas. We've always done that. We like to practice that way. We think there should be an alternative to the convergence that we do see in big law. And I do think there is a place for this traditional model to continue. There are not that many firms like us left, but there are a couple great ones in LA, among others, other than us. There's Munger, for example. But there is a place left for firms in the traditional mode.
Jennifer feeds the talent pool for the general counsel and the law firm. So Jennifer, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Jennifer Mnookin. I'm the dean at the UCLA School of Law. I've been dean for just a little bit more than a year. I was on the faculty at UCLA for 10 years before that, and I taught at the University of Virginia before that. Yes, many of our students want to grow up and be all of you. We certainly feel like we're doing a good job of trying to create those opportunities for them, but we're also always looking for ways that we can do better, both in terms of what we do in the 3 years of law school, in terms of preparing them for their positions, and also in terms of the recruiting process. There are structural dimensions to this that, in a way, none of us can change unilaterally, but that I think we all probably scratch our heads at some. I mean, the fact that for big law, hiring all happens essentially in August after their first year is not really how anybody would design a process if they were thinking about how to create the best matches between students' interests and experiences and outcomes. It's oddly early. Students at that point have had, exactly one elective, and otherwise, many of them don't really know what they're interested in. I think that we do, for those of you who are out of law school now, say 15 or more years, you would be surprised to see at some of the ways that the law school curriculum has changed, the growth of various kinds of experiential education and the way that they've become integrated into the curriculum, as well as the increased ability of students to specialize if they know what they're interested in. But there's still, I think, a bit of a mismatch between a relatively conventional hiring process and some of the changed language of what some law firms and companies say that they are looking for. And so I'm hoping that's something that we are able to talk about. I will say one more general thing before turning to you, and I will also say I'm proud to have 2 UCLA alums on the panel with me here. Exactly, go Bruins. But there's been a lot of doom and gloom talk in the general press about law jobs and law schools. And at least from our perspective at UCLA, that's certainly overstated. For the class of 2015, for us, 91% had full-time, long-term positions that were either JD required or JD Advantage 10 months after graduation. And so while I don't want to say there aren't challenges in the job market, I also do think that sometimes the rhetoric that we can get from the general press is maybe a little
Can I ask the first question right off of that? Is this going into counsel, like whether it be in-house counsel or law firms, or are these going to other jobs out there that are preferring JDs?
Most of our students many more are in JD required than JD Advantage jobs. So the ones that are in JD Advantage jobs are some public interest, actually, that aren't technically JD required, some business-related jobs where JD is an advantage. But for our particular pool, the JD Advantage group is actually a pretty small portion.
Okay, sorry, Greg.
Right.
Greg is big law, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Greg Nitzkowski. I'm the managing partner of Paul Hastings. I've been at the firm for 32 years, since graduating from UCLA in 1984, and I've been the managing partner. I'm entering my 17th year as managing partner of the firm. The thing I think that's changed for us the most around who we hire, how we hire, and the like is just the fact. I don't think that what we're looking for is that much different, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. I think what is very different are the skill sets that the law school students are coming to us with. I also think they have greater access to information about our industry and career paths than they've ever had in any generation in history, and they're much more savvy about accessing that information, and they understand that information in a way that somebody like me, graduating in 1984, really had no idea. As a result of that, I think the relationships between firm and associates is becoming much more mutual, more candid dialogue about career paths, what the firm's trying to accomplish, and a greater sense of mutuality of obligation to each other that I think is been very, very healthy and creating, I can't say it's still a firm, we're still a firm, all major firms are run by partners, but it certainly is one in where associates have a greater and greater say in that conversation in a way that's less hierarchical than it was when I was coming up.
And that kind of brings to the next question about culture and flexibility. So your firm's culture now is to have those early onset conversations with associates, or as their career progresses, not just come in and say, hey, you're going to be associate partner, equity partner, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the core to professional mutuality starts with honesty about all sorts of aspects of the job and careers.
And Andrei and Lucy are pretty similar with you?
Absolutely. I think people are certainly more interested in career options and choices, not lockstep, whether it's coming from a firm and still, coming maybe with a former lockstep mentality, but coming into a corporate environment, they're certainly interested in options. There's a lot of interest in using what they learned in law school at a firm, in our department, and then going to other parts of the business. So there's kind of a savviness now, I think, to graduating law students that was certainly very different than when most of us graduated.
Yeah, that's very funny that you say that. I actually say about the new associates that come, it seems like they've been here before somehow.
They know everything.
They know everything. We do live in the information age.
Yeah.
By the way, I say the same thing about my kids. It really does seem like they've plopped into this world sometimes with more knowledge than I have. But anyway, so they are fully aware, and I would say that from day one, they want to know what their options are, what are their realistic chances of this path or that path. Mm-hmm. But one thing, at least for us, that I don't think has changed. Everybody, or almost everybody, who comes through our doors, and then we still traditionally hire almost all of our lawyers from law school. Almost all of our lawyers have been hired after their first year at the law school, actually. And I would say that still, most of our associates want to become an equity partner at the firm. They know a lot more. They want to know about all their options and their chances. But still, the main goal, I think, for everybody is, at least for us, the same.
Do you think that's the right path? That the legal industry should continue with, hey, you're 1 year in law school, you're basically getting hired on, or should we be adapting a little bit more and understanding that a lot of them are in their early 20s and really haven't figured out, hey, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah, boy, that's an entirely different conversation. I have lots of thoughts about how the law school curriculum could be changed. For example, I don't think they need 3 years. Sorry, that would cut out a year of fees. But it could be a blended program where law firms and law schools could work together so that you can have a sort of an apprenticeship in the third year, perhaps. There is a tiny amount of that going on with externships, but I don't think it's enough. You could have a whole year, and then law firms and law students can make a more informed decision at the end of that period. There are many other alternatives, and I think other countries, England, for example, has experimented with many different other models.
Jennifer, what do you think? You knew it was coming to you.
Yes, so I would have to say that to be totally honest, I would be fine with having to earn the third year of law school, in the sense that I don't think it should be, I would be fine with the accreditors not requiring it. And then we could see what the marketplace said. We could see whether the marketplace thought that what we were doing with that third year was or wasn't adding value, and there could be multiple markets for different kinds of lawyers. I would not personally, some of my fellow deans would probably shoot me for saying this, and I'm saying this on video, no less, but I would be fine with having to see whether the marketplace thought that we were or weren't adding value. And I suspect that the answer would be different for different places in the law school food chain and different kinds of positions. I actually am going to say that I think that firms like Irell, when they really thought long and hard about it, would probably choose the candidates that were spending a third year on intense education that was partly interdisciplinary, partly broadening, letting them go deeper, letting them know who they are more before they came to that firm. But that might not be the right decision for
Let me ask this question too. Would that third year be better, not the whole third year, but be better spent giving them some sort of business skills and some sort of business development skills?
Yes, yes, and yes by all accounts. Whether you end up in a law firm or in a department, we have no idea coming out of law school what it means to run a law firm, to be a part of a legal, besides the law, hardcore, at least that's how it was, how to function as a money-making machine or as a business partner for us in-house. Absolutely none of that is taught, and I'm afraid that some of it isn't even mentored very well, and somehow you're magically handed off a baton or a budget and expected to do things with it. So I think that's a fundamental key, and I think law firms, law schools have probably started doing that. I just haven't been as connected. So,
Craig, what's your
I hope-
thoughts?
Yeah, no, we certainly see that we spend a disproportionate amount of our time in the early years in training in areas that have to do with preparing people to actually practice law and to actually be in courts before clients and the like. And those soft and practical skill sets, we would certainly like to see those more emphasized in the law schools. But one of the things that struck me that Andrei had to say is that looking at their associates, that most of them come into the firm with a goal of being partner in a law firm, and we find that that's really not the case anymore. I think it's part of that, what's changed in that package of people that are joining us. And indeed, if we were to engage in a dialogue that had prominent words like life balance and retention in them, that would be a dishonest dialogue from our perspective, which I can get into.
Yeah, can you please?
Yeah. Well, I think it's statistically, and it's something Casey and I have talked about too before, is that I think when you look at, we hire 100 people, roughly, 100 associates a year out of law school, and roughly on average over the last 10 years, I think our average is 11 people, let's say 10 for the ease of math, and that's 1 in 10 over an 8-year period. And we hire laterally, so it's probably 1 in 5 when you figure that people that are joining us, that are joining the partnership, some number of them have come from lateral partners, successful lateral partner groups. I think that associates have always known that, and to not engage them in that dialogue, I think when you engage them in that dialogue, what you're saying to them is a fundamental part of our business model and a fundamental part of our business development to take great associates and to place them with clients over time. That's part of the reason you're here, and one of the things that we offer better than any of our competitors, and everybody would say the same thing, we offer access to those jobs, we offer training. Associates aren't, first-year or second-year associates aren't a cost to us. The reason we develop people and spend so much money doing that over time, recognizing that most of them are going to move on, is precisely because we want to place them with clients. That's what our model is. It's not a retention model. It absolutely is not a retention model, and they know it. It's kind of odd still that partners in law firms sometimes are a little queasy about having discussions that are that frank, but this is a generation to us that is much more capable of having those discussions.
So you're looking at that ideal client, or that ideal candidate, and they have to be client-facing.
Can I just say that's amazing? I mean, that sounds amazing. I don't think my experience with the law firms I've engaged with, there's no way I got that sense. It's actually the opposite, where I'm shaking partners going, could you tell the associates this is how we like stuff?
Right.
They'll be a better partner. I mean, good lawyering, good contract, good lawyering, but how to be that trusted advisor and how to be an extension of my team, which would eventually potentially get them in, I've experienced actually none of that. I mean, I think that sounds amazing to me. And for us to have that frank conversation as a client of a firm would be fascinating, because we always get the little, oh, we're not going to bring our best associate because you'll steal them. Well, yeah, if they're that good, let's just be clear.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just think that's fascinating.
Andrei, what's your firm do, or any thoughts on this?
Well, with all due respect, I don't have that same experience, not vis-a-vis the client issue. That is absolutely true, and it's great. It works well. We do that as well. We do place associates with clients and so forth. I think there is a distinction between the statistics of how many of the incoming associates become partner, and it's very low. Maybe it is 10% or 5%, as you said. It's true. Versus what the intention is of each associate when they come in on an individual human being basis. I think everybody recognizes the odds. It's not a secret. 20 come in, 1 or 2 make partner, 7 or 8 years later for us. So they know the numbers, but each one individual who has succeeded at kindergarten, grade school, high school, best in each one of these, undergrad, law school, they believe they are the ones who are going to make it through. Now, maybe it's a self-selected type of a group, but I think it's...
For emphasis.
Listen.
But I do think it's... now, so the question is, at which point and what program do you have to match the interests versus reality? Because out of the 20, 1 or 2 make partner, you still have 17 or 18 people who don't. So the types of programs you have, Greg, I think that's fantastic. That's the type of thing. You groom everybody to potentially making partner from day one, at least that's what we do. But at the same time, you groom them to be trusted advocates, to be seamlessly fitting into the client team. And if 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line, you, the associate or the law firm, decides that partnership ain't going to happen, that associate has a seamless transition into the client or into public service or whatever the path might be.
So from my perspective, I see both kinds of students. I see the students whose goal in life is to become an equity partner in a big law firm, but I see lots of students whose goal is to get some excellent training and who hope to actually move laterally into an interesting in-house position that can give them, you know, one core client and business experience and the like. And so there's an interesting question for the students too about what they're allowed to admit, whether it's in the interview process or when they get there, or even as a second or third year associate, what's sayable in this space. And I think there's a lot of diversity along that.
Well, and diverse, I mean, not to take over your job, but I
Yeah,
would
take
love to
over my
know.
job.
Right. I just have to know, when I hear about the statistics of being a partner, so I did the big firm thing, and there comes this beautiful point where, for sure a woman, I'll just speak to what I know and not generalize, there is a point in life where things stop working with a path to equity partner and all the other stuff that I'm expected and probably want to do, let's say. I would love to just kind of think through what is happening at the big firms. I know there's tons of work happening in the area of diversity, but are the statistics still exactly the same? Is it still that same 1, or 2 out of 20? I mean, is it the same 10%? Do they still all look the same as well? And I'm just wondering, how do we feed that into the honest conversations in law school? How do we feed that into the honest conversations that students need to think about?
I think that goes to
Sorry.
I didn't feel disrespected at all by Andrei, your answer. I think we actually said exactly the same things, except that I think what I didn't address is that, yeah, different people come to different conclusions over the course of time that they're with the firm. So the dialogue is different with different people at different times. But I think it's essentially the same thing. But as it goes to the issue of, I think the key to that issue is the other thing I alluded to, which is a dialogue around life balance versus flexibility. We much prefer the word professional flexibility to life balance. Why? Because when you call us, you don't care what time of day or night it is. You don't care that we're going to work over the course of the weekend, because if you come to us, you need something from us, and you're going to pay for what you're going to need us for in a way that impacts your budget, impacts a variety of things. You want to know that we're the right firm in the right place, and that right firm in the right place means that we're on it immediately, producing exactly what you want, when you want. What's that mean for our associates, for our partners, our counsel? We don't control the balance in our lives. But what we can do for our associates, and what we owe our associates, is complete professional flexibility. That means we really don't care if people are in the office or not. We care after somebody closes a deal and they've worked round the clock for 3 weeks. We could care less if they're gone for a week. It's why we're moving to, as much as our clients will allow us with data security concerns, to a world in which we have a mobile set of things so people can have 4 key items with which they work each day, video, audio, document collaboration in real time in a desktop, so they can use those things wherever they are, whether they're in a conference room, whether they're at their home. It doesn't matter where they're with a client. They ought to be able to use those things wherever they are. And I think, sure, partners north of 50, is that a difficult transition? Yeah, but much less so than you might imagine. We have a goal that over the next 5 years, that 10% of our lawyers actually, it's not hoteling in the sense of accounting firms, but that won't have permanent offices in the firm.
Wow.
It has to do, certainly cost is a certain aspect of it, but it has much more to do with creating a culture and an environment where we focus on, we don't focus on geography, we focus on the substance of the work for clients, getting it done when they need it done, and having the tools to do that from wherever somebody is. We just think that's communicating a level of respect. And I think it's had an impact, certainly from a gender perspective, on the con system.
I would imagine. Well, this is recorded, so your associates are going to hear all and see all this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Andrei, thoughts?
Yeah, Greg is absolutely right. Whether it's the millennials or it's the technology or the combination of factors, the fact of the matter is that people work in different places and in different times, and a lot of firms and a lot of partners, especially the more senior folks, fight it. You're basically fighting it, and there are all sorts of things that I see happening where, the more senior partners say you need to be here during X numbers of times and so forth. But I think it's a losing battle. So we likewise, as a result, we don't have a FaceTime requirement. People are equipped with mobile technologies that allows them to work from anywhere at any time. It's really seamless. If I dial an extension, the associate picks up. I have no idea if she is in the office or not in the office. So I think that's where the world is going anyway, and I think it's a good idea for law firms to, instead of fight it, try to figure out how to use it to the best advantage for the work we do for clients.
Sounds good. I'm going to transition this, and I'm going to actually ask all four of you in your particular lines, what does the ideal candidate look like, and how does that ideal candidate really change from just coming straight out of law school or potentially having a career before that? How has that changed over the last few years? Go ahead, Liz.
I'm happy. I think for us, the ideal candidate now is it's more well-rounded in skill sets. Not because we expect them with the number of years that they've been educated to somehow magically know more, but I think their approach needs to be of a broader perspective than just understanding the legal issues. I feel like we've moved past the time, and those are table stakes where you better spot your issues. That's why you're here in the best and the brightest. I think what we're now looking for is how are you going to deliver that service? Are you getting that you need to be more efficient? Are you appreciating the fact that responsiveness, it is key, but with substance? I mean, I think we're looking for kind of a maturity that we're hoping the firms are educating and teaching, mentoring their associates with. So it's more of, I think, rounded around soft skills, I would say, these extra skills.
I'm going to go right down the line on this one because I think it applies to all four of you. Go ahead, Andrei.
Yeah, sure. So what we're looking for nowadays, a little bit different than before, are folks with more life experience, more business experience, more specialized skills. So for example, lawyers who perhaps have an advanced degree in something else or have worked in industry for a while, something extra that allows them to understand not just the legal issues that a client or a matter might pose, but also the business of the client, and be able to, earlier in their careers, provide a more global, well-rounded set of skills for interacting with clients. And I do think, at least for us, that has been a bit of a shift in the past, let's say, decade, whereas I would say 10 years or so ago, the most important thing was, the law school you went to and how well you did there, and that's still important for us, but there's an extra layer now.
Jennifer, when you're looking at getting potential law students in, how has this changed?
Sure, I'll address that, but I just want to note one thing first, because it connects to our earlier conversation about 2 or 3 years, 2 versus 3. What we've heard is that we'd like broader perspectives, interdisciplinarity, more business judgment, deeper knowledge, and some practical experiences. And I mean, I think we do actually offer ways for our students to get all of those things, though not every student gets all of them, and not every student always makes the best decisions for him or herself about which to pursue. But it's precisely in order to try to provide somewhat more of that I think that's how we'd like to think about the curriculum. In terms of who we admit and how that's changed, I think that we are going through some of the same dynamics that you are. I think that experience is something we value somewhat more than we used to. We do still take some students straight from undergraduate, but the percentage that have had some work and life experience has gone up. I am a fan of that. I think that students with some degree of prior work or life experience or even advanced degree experience have sometimes a better idea of why they're in law school and what for, and are better situated to take advantage of that. There's obviously exceptions, but I think that's one trend. I think we also care about soft skills and not only academic success in their previous endeavors, though certainly we do care about academic success. And at UCLA, we're a public law school, we also care very much about being a place of opportunity. And we look for socioeconomic diversity, for example, is something that's really important to us. And this actually circles back to how you all hire, because again, we have students who are third-generation lawyers and who worked in law-related fields before they got there, and we also have students who may never have really gotten to know a lawyer before they arrive. And for that latter group, the current hiring model does not give them very much time to figure out what this world looks like and sell themselves as effectively as they might a year or two later. And so the lack of a robust third-year hiring market or some other ways of thinking about these processes, I think is a long-run disservice to some of our shared goals.
Greg?
And hopefully on the subcommittee, I'll have an answer for that. I'm chairing a subcommittee for the board that Jennifer asked me to serve on, which touches right on that topic. But going to the qualities that we're looking for, I think the core is exactly the same as it's been for as long as I can remember. And what are those core things? They are capacity for hard work, intellectual superiority, high EQ, right? I think we value a lot in our firm. And the quality of somebody that gets excitement from derivative success, meaning it's not an investment banker's personality. It's not about us, it's about the client. So somebody who really gets excited accomplishing something for a client is a specific personality type, and those are the people we're looking for. We also dearly love people that come with other experience. Second career or less of a second career, but we really find the same thing, that people that have been out in the world and have had to contend in a world that is the world of our clients, that they're much more capable of understanding, making the distinctions between what matters and what doesn't matter, both on a human level and the level of the work we're doing. It's just very hard for young attorneys to figure out scale, proportion, prioritizing what they think matters. They think everything matters the same, and that's a big problem early on. It's one of the things that prevents young lawyers from being before clients sooner earlier in their careers.
Can I ask you both a question, all three of you really, what about resilience? How much do you think the ability to learn from mistakes or self-correct matters?
Boy, that is so deeply philosophical, and we could be talking about zero tolerance in public schools all the way up to a media world in which very, very few mistakes are tolerated anymore. But sure, yes, resilience is fine. It depends on resilient around what, though, what kind of mistakes. what kind of values those mistakes represent. I think values matter a lot to us. I think substantive related mistakes, that's just part of learning and why zero tolerance is a bad idea in schools and it's a bad idea in law firms as well. But over time, value-based ones or repeated substantive ones are a big problem.
So I have to confess, I bought the Failure's Not an Option poster at the museum in DC, and I was with my 12-year-old. I was like, yes, this says it all. I'm going to bring it back to my team. And then, of course, it dawned on me that our new CEO is very big into growth mindset, and that a core premise is learn from your mistakes. Right. And that has been a part of every all-hands meeting we have, every learning development opportunity, growth mindset. So my little rolled up tight poster is just still hidden away because I can't bring that in now. But I think it's a problem because your DNA, the successful type A attorneys, I mean, we're like, we work like crazy to not fail. I mean, that's the entire purpose of why we work the way we do. And so coming into some of these other industries, so we're in tech, and this new philosophy is learn and learn from change, and it's okay to fail. It's a little hard to be both at the same time. So it's a great question.
I think it's a brilliant question. By the way, I figured out that these microphones only give you problems when you speak. Otherwise, they're perfect. Brilliant question. As others have recognized on the stage today, and everybody here knows, the practice of law is hard. It's a hard job. It's, whether you're a litigator or a deal lawyer, you're going to face tremendous challenges, and you're going to face potential failures. You're going to lose a case, you're going to lose a motion, whatever. It's tough. You're going to have to deliver bad news to a client, for example. And I find that we attract a lot of law students who, as I've said, have succeeded at basically everything in their lives until they get to us. And some of those are the least prepared, no matter how brilliant they are. Some of them are the least prepared to deal with the difficulty of the practice of law. So we do look. It's incredibly perceptive of you to ask the question. We do look carefully, and we have questions that are designed to elicit life experiences where folks have overcome adversity of some sort. And by the way, UCLA students are generally, it's a better pool of such folks. Really good people who have overcome adversity and nevertheless have succeeded. That is a great combination.
I think we have time for one more question, which I'm very interested in. We've seen the legal marketplace change. We've seen the millennials come in. As you look at your firm, and Greg, I'll start with you and come this way, your strategy for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years with regards to people, is there something that you plan to change or a way to look different than something that you're doing now?
Yeah, I think that what's going to be different, and if we focus first on most junior of associates, I absolutely do believe that technology is changing what they're doing, but I think that's for the good. Anything that takes routine, repetitive things and takes it out of the hands of very smart, ambitious people is a great thing. Hence, it's the reason law firms really aren't doing electronic discovery anymore. We're not good at big data things so far in any way. Applying technology to those things. I think that what people are going to be doing, I don't think we're going to hire fewer. I think at the high end of the market, there's almost still an unlimited demand for great young associates for all kinds of different reasons, some of which we've talked about today. But I do think that what they're going to be doing is going to be much more focused on higher value aspects of the work. And I think as pricing models change, and I think they are changing actually pretty quickly now, I think it's one of the great side benefits that we're going to end this ridiculous conversation with clients about whether they're going to pay for first years or not. That's not really the issue. The issue is training a great group of young associates and having them proceed appropriately as they develop in their careers.
Perfect.
So let's see, I think I think one set of conversations I'm very eager to have is to try to answer the questions about whether there really are things we can be doing with these 3 years that would be adding more value, or whether that's a mantra with elements of truth, but perhaps, but I think we are already doing some of those, trying to really understand that better, and that is one piece of the project that Greg and I will be working on. But I guess I also, this is frustrating to me because it's not really in my power to change, but I would love to see us collectively, schools with firms, with in-house people, thinking about broadening the hiring models. It's not just a more robust third-year market would be a start. Thinking about the training piece, thinking about whether there are ways to have programs that are even more explicitly doing what you're describing. 2 years intensive training with a lower starting salary, where some will stay and some will get placed. Right? Thinking about in-house firm partnerships where students could be seconded partly in-house, partly at firms to learn what they need to know. Because I do worry that there's this problem that kind of everybody's pointing fingers elsewhere about how young lawyers should learn what we all want them to be learning in the first couple of years. In-house wants to hire laterally and wants the firms to train them. Firms can't necessarily get their value out of them. They point to us, but some of those skills we are not the right place or well situated necessarily to do the training for. And so I can't solve that, but I'm delighted to have opportunities like this one to talk about those questions.
Great.
So there's no question that the practice of law, the business of law is in the middle of a whole host of changes. And that's a long discussion if we're going to go into all of them. But on the question of what we might do with associates and how we might change looking forward 5 years or so, I would say that other than technology, but everybody's doing that, I think one value that law firms can add is on-the-job training, something that the law school perhaps didn't address entirely. And that would be, in addition to training them for writing briefs or taking depositions or arguing in court, in addition to that, train the lawyers to be and understand business. Train the lawyers like the business firms, like McKinsey, trains their associates. Not to the same extent, because they have to be lawyers first. But perhaps law firms, and we certainly are on this path, can begin to provide more additional formal training in that direction.
Perfect.
I would echo everything. There's not much to add in terms of the hiring for lawyers. I think we will continue to hire what we have. I mean, it's lateral. It's kind of that sweet spot of experience. And I think for lawyers that will continue. I think what you're seeing is an explosion in legal departments in-house is the hiring of other professions into the department. For lawyers to know how to work side by side with a data scientist is going to become necessary, whether as an outside attorney or one of us in-house. So again, trying to find a way, talking about all these broadening skills that are absolutely necessary. In-house, we have attorneys hiring all kinds of other professions that we don't even understand but desperately need. So there is a change happening there too, and I don't have an answer for that either.
I should have mentioned, I think we're going to see more jobs within law firms that are law-related that aren't associate counsel and partner.
That
We
are
really
specialty roles.
We're starting to see more specialty roles that require some technical training but a legal background as well. And many of our associates are morphing into experts in those areas and are following that career path as well. I think we'll see that continue as well.
Thank you. Well, I would like to thank all of you. I thought this conversation was awesome. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jed. And Greg, your closing comment is actually the inspiration for our next panel. I'm going to invite Joe Lawler to join me on the stage and welcome his panel. We are going to have a conversation about cybersecurity, and this is an area where law firms and in-house counsel are changing how their practices are set up in order to solve for this challenge. So, Joe?
Professional flexibility.